Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to make some dulce de leche. And dulce de leche it's a wonderful confection that tastes a lot like caramel, but it isn't caramel. To me, it's somewhere between caramel and butterscotch, and I don't know how to describe it, but it's really wonderful to put over a cheesecake. It's really good to dip apple slices in. It's really good to just take a spoon and eat right out of the jar. It's totally up to you how you use it, but it's just so delicious. And I've already made some, and I decided that I would make a video about it because my last batch turned out so good. I want to duplicate those results for you. And the only thing is I'm using a different brand of sweetened condensed milk. So let's just start there. The main ingredient, the only ingredient, is sweetened condensed milk. If you've ever seen the Eagle brand, I think that was one of the brands that's the most well-known. If you've ever made a 7-layer bar out of the Betty Crocker cookbook, you will recognize sweetened condensed milk because that's the last ingredient that you pour over the top before you bake it. Who knew that you could do this with it? So it's pretty fun. And it's kind of become a craze because it's easy, it's tasty, and let's face it, it's fun. So I know people have been doing it on their stovetops. I've heard of people doing it in their crock pots, but we can do it in our Instant Pots. So let's go ahead and get started. What I have here, these are 4-ounce canning jars, and they are the kind that can, get canned in the heat, because obviously we're going to pressure cook them. We definitely don't want any exploding jars. And I've sterilized them in my dishwasher as well as the lids, and I've already filled up one just so you could see. You don't want to fill it all the way up, you want to leave a little bit of room. This can, it looks like the typical can comes about 14 ounces, and that's enough to do 4 jars. So if you just want to get your toes wet and see how it works, this is a great starting point because you're only out 1 can of condensed milk and some time, And with these jars, you can use them for so many other things. So it's very thick, but it pours really, really well. And I'm going to almost to that ring, the bottom ring, I guess is a good way to describe it. And I apologize because I'm doing this with one hand. It's not exactly the most steady camera work, but I don't think any of my videos have steady camera work. Oh. But this is a homemade video, and it's for fun and for education, so to speak. By the way, it happens to be Christmas morning, so Merry Christmas. It's also the second day of Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah to those of you who celebrate Hanukkah. Okay, so they talked me into watching the Festivus episode of Seinfeld last night. I had never seen it, so it was kind of weird. So happy Festivus for the rest of us, for those of you who celebrate that, and so on. Okay, I'm going to have to put down the camera for a moment and just, I have a little tiny spatula, and I'm going to use that to get the rest out and even up the amounts in the jars, and then I'll come back. Okay, I got them all filled and I got the lids on. I left one lid just to show you how I do it. It's pretty easy. Just stick it on there, and you just want to go what they call finger tight, and finger tight is basically not wrenching it down. So I just kind of barely do it, and then I back it off a little bit, and then just make sure it's just gently on there. Just like that. Pretty easy. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my pot to saute mode. I do have the trivet in there that came with the pot. I'm going to put in 1 cup of water. That's a really happy sound. That means something great's about to happen. Anyway, so I'm just going to let it start to heat up. This is just how I do it. Some people start straight from cold, and that's okay. I'm not going to get it boiling hot. I'm just going to get the water a little bit warm, and then I'm going to put the jars in, and then I'm going to add some more water. It probably sounds like a strange way to do it, but because there's a lot of water to heat up, this will actually help it go a little bit faster. You can just put the jars in, dump the water in, set it and go. It really doesn't matter. I tend to do things a little differently, but that might be because I'm a little different. I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to grab some more water and then I will be right back. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the jars into the pot. I just set them near each other. I don't know that it matters if they touch or not. I don't generally have them touch unless I'm doing like 6 or 7 jars. And I've had them touch before. Really, the glass doesn't touch so much as the lids touch because it puts a tiny bit of space in between them. Of course, I don't stack them because there's not enough room. And can you imagine how much water that would be? That would just be a little much. Okay, so the water on the bottom's been warming up a little bit. And that way I can get my jars in and have a little bit of a head start on the heating process. And then I have a 4-cup of measuring cup of water here, and I'm just going to add it right over the side. And what I have found is it takes a little bit more than this, but the water's starting to creep up the side of the jar. I usually get the water like just a little bit under the lid, maybe a few centimeters under. So I'll go ahead and grab a little bit more. I don't know, you don't need to really see this part, but what the heck. Okay, just about there. Okay, perfect. So that really took about 6 cups of water after the initial cup, so we're going to say about 7 cups of water. Obviously, if you have more jars, it'll be less water because you'll displace it, but yeah. So I don't know how well you can see that, but the water's just below the lid. For me, that's what works. You know, you may choose to do it a different way, but this is what I like to do. All right, and then pop the lid on, put it on sealing. You can cancel your saute mode if you chose to do that method, and then just manual. Now, there's a lot of different times that people do. Some people do 30. I've seen people do 20. Let me dial that exposure down a little bit. It's really bright. There we go. I actually do 28. I tried a couple different ways, and I realized that for the taste and consistency that worked for me, 28 minutes was the best. I do let it naturally release for a really long time though. Basically, once it's done, I cancel the keep warm. So I stick around long enough for the 28 minutes to go by and to be able to cancel the keep warm. And then after that, I let it naturally release, and then I don't even open the lid for a really long time. Usually I'll go find other things to do, and or go shopping or take a nap, anything. So it ends up being quite a while. So the next time I see you is when I'm going to actually open up the lid, and a lot of time will have elapsed, and we'll see what we get. All right, so it has been a couple of hours actually of naturally releasing the pressure, which means I didn't do anything. And I actually went and made some eggs and did some other things. So it's time to check and see what we have. Obviously there's no pressure left in the pot. The pin's down. So I'm going to go ahead and open the lid. And there they are. The water is still really hot at this point, and it's, you know, covering the jars pretty well. What I've done before is I've just let it really cool down, and I would siphon out some of the water with a turkey baster, and then I let them cool even further, because I used to be really paranoid about the jars breaking once they hit the cooler air. But I'm going to be brave and just take them out. Definitely either use tongs or some kind of a silicone mitt or something, just because these are really hot, and just be really gentle. And I'm setting them just on this mat that's for absorbing water. I think you could probably set them on a cooling rack or something just fine. Okay, and I'm not going to open them yet. I'm just going to let them sit here for quite a while and just cool down naturally. I'm just really gentle with my dulce de leche because I like it to get just the perfect consistency. And I have seen some, I guess not really nightmares, but some results that were really strange from other people, and they were really lumpy and they were just really, really weird. And the answer that everybody had was stir, 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 change forks and stir some more, or, you know, use an immersion blender or something else. And I was like, my gosh, I don't want to do any of those things. I just want to open up the lid and be ready to dunk an apple in it. So anyway, I'm going to just let it cool down longer and then I'll come back. Okay, so it has been, I don't know, maybe another hour, hour and a half or so, and they are completely cooled to the touch, and I'm really excited to see what's in there. I know this has been a long process, but I found that, and it's okay if there's a little bit of moisture there, you can just wipe that off. Anyway, I found that I get the best results when I just let it completely cool. And that looks really promising. Beautiful, beautiful caramel color. And it's really smooth. See how it looks like when you first open up a jar of peanut butter? And that's a good sign. But you want to dip a spoon in there and see what you actually get. So let's go ahead and do that. Look at that. Completely smooth. No lumps, no bumps. And it is really, really thick. I mean, super, super thick. And that's exactly what you want. When you go to use this, say on a cheesecake, obviously it's not going to pour directly from these jars. The way that you use it on a cheesecake, for instance, is that you would put it in a little saucepan and add a tiny bit of milk to it and just stir it really well until it becomes the pouring consistency that you would like. Go easy on the milk, so you're just adding a tiny bit at a time, sort of like when you're making a royal icing or something. You want to, you know how you add just the milk a little bit at a time for that, and you know, heat it on a very low temperature, and then it will loosen up and it will become a pourable consistency, and then you pour it over your cheesecake, and then you know, you pop it in the refrigerator and it's good to go. As is right now, aside from the fact that you could eat this with a spoon, you could definitely dip an apple in there. You could spoon it out and spread it on something else. So, you know, there's lots of different ways, but I'm going to give this a taste because it looks really good. It is perfectly, perfectly creamy. And it's the weirdest stuff because it really does taste a lot like caramel, but not exactly like caramel. And I know there's some people that don't like it, and you know, a lot of us who do, but this is really a success, I think. All right, I'm not going to double dip because I'm going to have to share, unfortunately. No. All right, that's it. That's dulce de leche. If you have any comments or questions, you know, let me know. I'm not the foremost expert on it. I can only tell you what works for me. And I can also tell you that my way is not the only way. And this is really, really good. And I used a generic condensed sweetened milk. But I will say that I think I prefer the Eagle brand a little bit more. I can tell this is really good, but I think I like the Eagle brand better. It's just my own taste. But, you know, you might just like this just fine. And there's other brands too. I think Nestle has a brand as well. So anyway, enjoy your dulce de leche and happy holidays. Bye.